Welcome to this special edition, actually, for lack of another word. I know we do a clip every weekend for Sunday. I think this is yesterday's events, call for a special clip. And that's what I would like us to have today. And yesterday, just in case you've been living in mass, yesterday we had a press statement released by President William Ruto, where he basically and essentially said he's open to have dialogue and have conversation with the opposition. And he had that press conference at 5:30. And one of the things it's important to note is that the press conference was called for 5:30 on the dot. The president was actually on the podium. In fact, he had to stop because you could see some media people were still getting in. I mean, I saw that. I know they didn't cover that, but we noticed and we knew what was happening. And it tells you a bit about the work ethic that we have always said. Like him, hate him. The work ethic that William Ruto has is very different from a couple of the past presidents we have had. But that's not the point. So at 5:30, he calls a press conference. He speaks to the press for around 25 minutes, takes a couple of questions, essentially says a couple of things. We have had Azimio, we've had Raila Odinga. In fact, in that presser for the first time, and I say it's always very important to note some words. The first word, he's talked about winning 2022, everything, and he said, however. And then he took a tangent. He talked about many things, and then he said, he quoted Winston Churchill. He said, you know, sometimes it takes courage to stand up and speak out, but it also takes courage to sit down and listen. The third thing was when he called Raila Odinga my brother and my friend. That's when you know he imeenda, right? The fight is done. Now, after he was done in his 20-25 minutes, 30 minutes later, Raila Odinga did a press conference. Of course, you can say, oh, you know, coincidence, come on. This is politics. Politics doesn't have coincidence. The fact that Raila did a press conference 30 minutes after Ruto did a press conference tells you this was not the first time they were speaking about the things they were saying. I mean, if you think that they spoke to each other through the press, that's your problem. I don't think they spoke to each other through the press. I suspect that a conversation had happened before that we now saw as a public in the press conferences. So, Raila's press conference, one, keywords. We accept the olive branch laid out by Honorable William Ruto, which is what he called him. He talked about being open to dialogue, critical, and he supported the bipartisan approach through Parliament that President Ruto had actually indicated in his press statement 30 minutes earlier. People like myself were like we said. Last week I commented and said that the minute I had Raila escalate the maandamano to 2 times a week, I said, look, time is running out. There must be a deadline that they're pushing. So whatever we want to call it, yesterday we saw the essence of a handshake. The problem about a handshake is that it was so demonized that every time you talk about a handshake, people say like, no, hardliners, on especially the KenyaKwanza side, are like, no, we are not going to have a handshake. But yesterday, what we actually had was a handshake is when two people who have been fighting sit down and shake hands and say we're going to stop fighting. That's what we saw yesterday. A virtual handshake through the press, but I suspect a real and physical handshake had happened before somewhere, and I could be wrong. But what does this mean? What does this mean? And it's important for us, and that's the reason I've actually decided to have this conversation right now, and it couldn't wait for Sunday. One, as Azimio, when we were campaigning, the biggest fear we sold, especially in MtKenya region, is that if Ruto is elected, he will do a handshake with Raila. And everybody would say, no, it can't be done, it can't be done, it can't be done. So I can imagine right now, there are people who, in fact, when I was walking into the hotel this morning, a guy walked up to me as I was parking, and he told me, I know what we did. Essentially, it's meaning, ulituambia. And he meant that I had said, when we were campaigning, I had said, you guys are saying, oh, Raila is bad, but if Ruto wins, they're going to shake hands with Raila. It has happened. We sold it as a fear because it was politics. And it has both sides. And right now, I want to speak especially as a person from Mount Kenya region. There are lessons we must carry forward from 2019. In 2019, Uhuru Kenyatta and Raila Odinga did a handshake. And that handshake turned friends to enemies and enemies to friends. And as we now start this new journey, we must be able to learn from mistakes made in the past when Uhuru and Raila did their handshake. And this is what I would like to say. First, it is going to be critical for hardliners to stand down. Hardliners are important. I know I have seen memes of people making fun of and ridiculing Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua because he was like the prominent hardliner from the KenyaKwanza side. But let me tell you, hardliners are important when a war is going on because they're able to say things that the boss cannot say. Hardliners, we saw hardliners from across the board in the KenyaKwanza brigade. We saw hardliners across the board, Sifuna and other people from the Azimio side, Kioni and Isufuria. But once this conversation happens, I want to urge all hardliners, please stand down. Remember, your fight was not for yourself. Your fight was for your boss. And now your boss has shaken hands with the enemy. Stand down. That is one lesson I want to urge every hardliner, wherever you are, please stand down. The second lesson, please do not replace your friends, old friends, with new friends. That happened to us in Jubilee, and unfortunately we replaced the friendships of William Ruto and his team with the friendships of Raila Odinga and his team. And we created an enemy within, and that, to a large extent, led to what we saw, the disintegration of Jubilee Party, the internal fight that just completely messed up the process of what we were doing as a ruling party at that time. And this is, so I would want to urge the leadership of KenyaKwanza, who especially were in government, please do not replace old friends with new friends. Don't make enemies from within. The third thing advice I would like to give, pull inwards. They say that in a family, when you're fighting, you don't take your fights outside. If there's going to be any disagreements, any confusion about what has happened, please have that conversation in-house. Don't take it outside. Don't take your fight to the podium. You guys, especially, and again, I'm talking primarily to KenyaKwanza because I keep hearing that the biggest stake that Mount Kenya has is in this government. And I want to urge you, please do not take your fights outside. Sit, speak, fight from within if you have to fight, but from out, never ever take your fight outside. And there's certain things I also want to advise to our region. What happened yesterday is both a threat or an opportunity. It can be either, depending on how we behave from here moving forward. It can be a threat if we decide to take it as a negative. If we decide to take it as something that takes away from us. If we decide to use it as an excuse or a mobilizing aspect. It can be an opportunity if we do the reverse. And my advice, first and foremost, we cannot afford as a region. And this has been said many times. This government was elected over 40% Mount Kenya region. You cannot, as a region, afford to fight William Ruto because he has done a handshake with Raila Odinga. You will not win. Right now with Ruto as president, and you have seen, this is a smart guy. If you become a threat to him, he can replace your votes with another region. And now he has a good friend in Raila Odinga to do that. So please do not decide to use this as an opportunity to fight the government or to fight the president. It will not work. In fact, it will lead to a loss of whatever stake we have in this particular government, which was paid for with sacrifices of people such as myself. It's not worth it. My advice will be, use this as an opportunity first. Watu warudi nyuma ya hama. As a region, I want to advise all our leadership across the political divide. Now that we have agreed that political divides no longer exist, can the Mount Kenya region watafute mbuzi pahali waende waketi? Articulate the interest of the region and circle your wagons around those interests. My number one. Don't think too far. Don't think about 2027. Think about now and how the interests of the region are going to be taken care of between now and the next election. Second thing, circle your wagons around Rigathi Gachagua. Right now, he's the leader you have. He's the only leader the region has in this government at that level. I have said before and I'll say again, a weak Rigathi Gachagua is a weak region. A strong Rigathi Gachagua is a strong region. And I have said this as well. Rigathi is a quiet taste. People have many things to say about him. People have made memes about him. From yesterday, one of the things that made me laugh was people saying, na Rigathi kesho aende kazini saa 11 asubuhi. And I saw that he was actually at the office at 5. So he's become a punching bag. Because he has put himself out there as the face and the hardness of this government. He's a blunt instrument of this government. Now, who knows? If Rigathi had not been as much of a hardliner as he was, would we Raila angeshuka kweli? I'm not sure. Si ameshuka. They've now agreed. Both sides have shukad. They've now come to a middle. They are now starting a conversation. I want to urge the leadership, the region as a whole, to realize that now is a time to circle their wagons around Rigathi Gachagua. He has weaknesses, he has strengths. Come around him, create a buffer around him, strengthen him. Because if he gets weak, old friends are going to be replaced with new friends, and we will lose. Learn from what the Kalenjin community did with William Ruto after Raila came in. They circled their wagons around him and they protected William Ruto with everything they had. And that is the only way they survived and got into leadership. The third thing, and this is going to be very, very critical. We have, as we circle our wagons around Rigathi Gachagua, as we sit behind the tent, we must intensify our investment in this government. Sometimes an instinctive reaction when you see as if things didn't go the way you wanted, if you feel as if you have been played. You know, there was a very big fight about the handshake in 2019, and that became a reason why things went wrong, why Uhuru became the wrong person, oh, Uhuru was weak, da 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 da. Now it's coming together again. And you don't know if you're a person who was fighting Raila Odinga, what are you going to go and tell people? Ruto has now agreed to dialogue with him. You're going to have to move away from that point very quickly. And you're going to have to sit down and decide you cannot sulk. There's a very high possibility of people wanting to sulk for a while. Oh, ni kama tunachezwa, boss, hii ni siasa. Now, see, Ruto and Raila have agreed to come together. Can you intensify your investment in the KenyaKwanza government? Can you become such a critical player in KenyaKwanza that by the time Raila is settling down, whatever happens, hata kama itakuwa serikali itapatiwa, si saidi yako itapatianwa. You'll have become such a strong supporter, investor, defender of this KenyaKwanza government that you cannot be replaced. That would be my advice. The people who are actually leaders within the KenyaKwanza government at this time, from our Mount Kenya region, mwende nyuma hama, accept there's a new reality now. Raila is no longer a punching bag. So you can't mobilize around that one. You now have to mobilize around the interests of the region. Second, mobilize around your leader. Current leader right now, Rigathi Gachagua. Mobilize around him, protect him, defend him. As I said, learn from what the Kalenjins did with William Ruto in 2019. Third, intensify your stake and your investment in the KenyaKwanza government. Support William Ruto with everything you had. Become the primary supporters of William Ruto to the point where even if he would think about replacing you, he can't. Even if people would tell him, toa hawa watu, he can't, because of the stake and the support that you're giving him in his government. You do those things, then you'll be able to turn this new development that happened yesterday into a plus, and you'll build not just yourself, but our region forward. If you take it negatively, kitaumana. And in a very short while, our region is going to be kuko inje when people are discussing huku ndani. That's my advice. I hope we take it. I hope we build it. I think what happened is good for the country generally because it shows we are maturing. It shows watu wanaweza shuka. People came down from their hardline positions, and I really want to congratulate President William Ruto, number one, because he didn't have to. I mean, he could have been hardline. The same way I congratulated Uhuru Kenyatta in 2019 is the same way I'm congratulating William Ruto in 2023. Second thing, I want to congratulate Raila Odinga also for agreeing to take up the olive branch. He could have refused and continued with Maandamano today, and our children would not have gone to school. Nairobi business would have been closed down, would have lost money again. The leaders have shown the way. The supporters of the region, of the leaders, must now follow the leaders. Let's build a country, let's build unity. And again, before I forget, I want to mention the religious leaders who stepped up and took the bull by the horns and urged dialogue when it was unpopular. I also kept saying, of course, nilitukanwa sana, nikasema it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when the two sides are going to come together. Let's learn from the past. Let's make this particular dialogue, coalition, cooperation, handshake much better than the ones we've had in the past. Let's learn from each and develop each as we go along. So anyway, that's what I have today. Tuko tu hapa Rware, tunaendelea kukunywa chai na mandazi as we watch the country grow. God bless you. God bless you. God bless you. Thank you very much.